All right, let's try this again. Thank you guys for coming to the stream. Sorry about that confusion, that delay there. If you're new to my streams, my name is Terence. I'm currently a medical student here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I make YouTube videos about my experiences as a medical student, as I talk about my experiences as a pre-med, applying to medical school, what I did to gain medical school acceptances. I talked about the MCAT, and more recently just talking about my life as a medical student. So if you like all that type of content, please subscribe to my channel and check it out. We do live streams like this. I've been doing it probably after every block. So the last time I did it was in October after my block 2 exam, and now here we are after block 3. What's up, King Zeph? Welcome to the stream. So yeah, right now I am in between semesters. We had a 2-week break for holidays, and at this point just kind of relaxing, enjoying the time off. And then at this point, you know, doing a little bit of research, but just trying to kind of get my mind right for the upcoming semester. King Zeph, how's the audio here? How we sounding? You have to crisp and clear. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm waiting for some people to trickle in. I had a different link before, but it had I had accidentally ended the stream, so I had to start a new one. So hopefully when people refresh their computers and they come through. Lost Kings, you're deciding between PA school and medical school. Any advice? I think the biggest things when you're kind of figuring out like whether or not you want to go into medicine as a PA or a medical student or a doctor, one of the biggest things that I kind of looked at was the responsibility factor, the lifestyle factor. There's so many different things that you can, I guess, consider when you're making this decision. I knew I wanted to go into medicine, become a doctor, because I wanted to be someone that made the final call. I wanted the responsibilities of a physician. I wanted somebody to be somebody that could guide and control, I guess, the patient's course of action and their treatment plans. Not to say you can't do that with other fields, but I think that one of the biggest things, the difference is you just have the final say when you're a doctor. When you're a PA, you're a lot of the times playing in a secondary role. If you're working under a physician, there's a lot of PAs though that do work independently and can prescribe on their own, do work independently, and that's something that's kind of evolving over time now. So I think that it's important to research the position, research and understand what you want as an individual, and then go from there. I think that that's the best course that you can take. Again, for me, it was the responsibility of a physician and knowing that I was the one that was kind of always going to be in control of my patients and their outcomes. But you know, what things do you have in mind as far as like what are your goals and some things that you're kind of debating over between PA and MD? Appreciate you pulling up. Thank you, Zeph. So I see some more people coming in right now. Sorry about the confusion about the links. I had started a stream before and then I had accidentally closed it out. So I apologize about that. If you guys are just trickling in, I am just answering any questions you guys may have about medical school, about my life in general, applying to medical school. Lost Kings asked a great question about PA versus MD, different things like that. So ask away, and I'm happy to answer any questions, interact with you guys, and get to know a little bit more about, you know, what you guys are looking for out of me. Anonymous, welcome to the stream. How do you decompress over break and after a stressful first semester of medical school? Yeah, that's a great question. It's one of those things where you kind of have a hard time with it. I guess I personally have a hard time with it because you're so used to just working, and you're under this impression as a medical student that you have to constantly work. But it's also very, very important to decompress. I think some of the things that I've been trying to do and making an effort to do is just take a step away from everything, not even look at schoolwork, not even look at research, and just take a few days off. That's what I did, and I did absolutely nothing. So when I first went back home during Christmas Eve, Christmas, even the day after Christmas, I did very minimal work. I did absolutely nothing. I was just trying to decompress, take a step away from the phone, take a step away from social media, from YouTube, from everything, and just decompress. I think that's one of the biggest things. And then from there, I think it's finding the things that you like to do and the things that you enjoy. So for me, one of the things that I was really looking forward to doing over this break is just catching up on research, and that's something I've been able to fit time in every single day when I want to, maybe like 3 to 5 hours a day, just doing that so I can feel accomplished and actually achieve my goals and accomplish those. So that's pretty much how I've been decompressing, just spending time with friends and family, taking a step back, and just not allowing myself to look at stuff, because I know that as soon as I start looking at things, I will get trapped, and I'll end up doing work for hours on end. Good question though. Did you have any aversions to blood and the body's internal structures prior to medical school? If so, how did you overcome them? Yeah, Aaron, I'd say that when I first was interested in medicine, and my mom would say this, my parents would definitely say this, I didn't want to be a surgeon. Right now I'm interested in surgery because that's stuff that I've shadowed and experienced, and I like the lifestyle and I like all these different things, but I didn't want to do that because I was kind of queasy around blood. And I think one of the things that I did to kind of help myself cope with that was just understanding that if I can compartmentalize what's going on, I can overcome it and be better with it. So I just kind of realized that, all right, when I see blood in like real life and in real life situations, it makes me a little bit queasy. Like seeing my own blood gets me a little bit queasy. But if I was in like a lab, or if I was in like an animal dissection or something like that in college, or if I was just doing anything where I can compartmentalize and say this is not real, or this is not a person, or just kind of compartmentalize, as bad as that kind of sounds to say, taking the realness out of it. So I remember when I was shadowing in the operating room for the first time, I was seeing a rotator, or not a rotator, it was a shoulder replacement. So it was a total shoulder replacement, and they make a huge incision across the shoulder here, and they suction out all the blood and the fluid, and I was watching the fluid go up the tubes and be collected, and I was getting queasy, and I had to step out of the operating room because I felt like I was going to pass out. And that's just one of those things that I guess a lot of people, for the first time, they experience that, and I experienced that too, and it's normal. And I think as I took a step back, I took a breather, I got something to eat, I got something to drink, and then I went back in there. I've been fine ever since. So I think it's just exposing yourself, and then getting used to it at the same time. What's up, DC? Welcome to the stream. Thank you. Not really sure. So as a physician, my goal would be orthopedics. The only thing I like about PAs is quicker money, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I think that it's tough, because when you're a PA, yeah, you can get there faster, but you could get there faster for the reason that you're kind of limited in your abilities. As a doctor, you could do a lot more. You have a lot more freedoms, less limitations. And with a PA, yes, you could get there faster, but why can you get there faster? Because the training is less, and you have to do less training because you have less responsibilities. And I think that it depends on what you want. So if you don't mind having that cap on you, you don't mind having a potentially a supervising physician that you're working with and collaborating with all the time, if you don't mind not being the ultimate say and making the final call all the time, and you like that lifestyle, you like that role, and you enjoy making the 6-figure salaries that PAs make, and you like the fact that you don't have to work extra long hours and do all the things and dreadful things that doctors have to do, then PA might be the route for you. But it's tough too when you're first starting off and you think you want to do something, and like you said, you wanted to do orthopedics potentially, and with that, it's like I had the fear too. Will I like everything else in medicine? Will I enjoy medicine as a whole? Or do I kind of just like this one aspect of medicine? So I think it's taking a step back and looking at what do you truly want out of your, ultimate life and career goals? If you took away all the other factors like, the amount of schooling and all those other things, what do you envision for yourself? What were your stats entering med school, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah, so my stats were, it's hard to say. When you're competing against medical students and like pre-meds, everybody's like super smart. So it's tough to be like, oh yeah, my stats were average, or my stats were below average. I feel like no matter, like, depending on the context, people ask you, you will be like above average or below average. But I had a 3.6, I think I had like a 3.67 GPA overall. And I had a 3.62 science GPA. So good enough to get me into medical school. And then my MCAT was a 513. I took my MCAT twice. I originally scored a 500 and I scored a 513. So my goal as far as stats and school, obviously you want to get the best grades. You want to love the content. You want to embrace it. You want to enjoy your schooling. I was a biology major. I did a neuroscience specialization. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about the stuff that I learned about. There was, did I like every single class? No. Did I like most classes? Maybe, probably. But a lot of the things that I was trying to do as far as my grades was just to get me over that hump and get me my foot in the door. So I wanted to be in a situation without a shadow of doubt, I get into the door and no one has to question whether or not I'm going to be a successful student. So that means A's and B's in pre-med, in all your pre-med requirements, and then, doing well in the MCAT. So I think that's the best approach and mindset that I had when I was approaching, school and grades. Just get the best grades you could possibly get so that people can't doubt the fact that you will be a good student. How'd you decide to start a YouTube channel? What's up, Tom? Welcome to the channel. Your favorite YouTube channel? Yeah. Oh, are you talking about King Zeph or are you talking about me? So deciding to start a YouTube channel, it really came to me. So a lot of my family members, so where do I start? So I've been on YouTube for a while. What's up, Joel? I've been on YouTube since I was like a little kid. I made skits and sketches that my dad would post on YouTube. They're not accessible right now, but as a kid I was making YouTube videos. I was always behind the camera doing stuff. Then when I was growing up, me and my close friends, we made trick shot YouTube videos. If you go on YouTube and you type in TMNXTRAS, you'll see all our trick shot videos. Kind of embarrassing if you look back at it, but it's what we did. And that's what I was always somebody that was like interested in YouTube. And then like in high school, I was always the kid that like did all the editing for all our like class projects and stuff like that. So I was always interested in like videos and stuff like that. A lot of my family members do YouTube, and I was helping them out with some YouTube videos and doing, appearing on their channel and stuff. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, you could have this influence, you could meet people, you could spread, positive things, you could teach people how to do things. And once I realized that I found my niche as far as a medical student, a minority in medicine, somebody that was successful in the application cycle, just a regular dude that feels like I can share that story of, you don't have to be this wizard, this genius person, this, quote unquote, like what a physician should be. And what we think of a physician a lot of the times, you don't have to be that person. You just have to be yourself and you could get into medical school. And that's what I wanted to show people. And I wanted to just document my story and share to people why why you can do it too. And if I can put my story out there and you can kind of take a little bit of piece of my story and apply it to yours and other YouTubers out there and other bloggers out there, then that's my ultimate goal, just to help people. So I kind of had this moment one day where I was just super excited to do it, and I committed by like buying all the equipment and fancy stuff, and then the rest is history. I just kept working at it. So that's my YouTube story. How's your what's up, Wally? Wally has a great podcast, Chai with the Pre-Med Guys. If you guys on any podcast platform, Chai with the Pre-Med Guys, they have a great podcast. I listen every single week. If you're a pre-med student, you have to check them out. They interview all different types of medical students. They interviewed a gastroenterologist. definitely check out Chai with the Premed Guys podcast. How's your orthopedics focused club at Sidney Kimmel going? Yeah, so we've been having meetings probably at least once a month. We have different doctors come in. I think we've had a couple doctors so far. One who was a pediatric orthopedic surgeon at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, CHOP. And he talked about just like his life, his experience. I think it's his first year in practice, so he's pretty fresh out, and he likes talking to medical students and residents about just his experience. So that was good. We also have journal clubs. So we've had 2 so far, and basically the way journal clubs are is we have a couple of students that present different papers and open up discussions, and then the faculty member or the physician that's kind of running the show that day will kind of go into more details and give us a lot of insight based on their practice and their experiences. So I think that it's been really, really good. We have an upcoming talk about coming up about women in orthopedics. If you go to an orthopedic conference, you'll be very, very shocked to see a lot of women there. It's very slim pickings for women and minorities, and it's something that orthopedics needs to improve. And I think medicine in general, surgical specialties in general, need to improve upon. And even Wally, you had mentioned that in your recent podcast with the gastroenterologist, the fact that there's not that many women in it. So I think that it's one of those clubs that I'm super happy to be a part of, and it looks like we're making some good headway, and I've been learning a lot so far. What's up, Devin Grant? Welcome to the stream. Thank you for your question. What's your biggest advice for someone getting ready for medical school? Yeah, I think if you've gotten in medical school acceptance and you're getting ready for medical school at this point, it's December and you won't be starting until July. But I think getting ready for medical school, appreciate the time that you have, because once you start and once you get on the roller coaster, there's no turning back. Appreciate this time where you can kind of like enjoy life to yourself. You could travel. Well, with COVID, there's restrictions, but you can travel, you can spend time with friends and family, you can work a certain routine or a job, a 9 to 5, whatever the case may be, and you could have time to yourself. And when you get to medical school, it's harder to find that time. So I think by building good habits now, finding your routines, finding what works best for you, there's no way you could really prepare for medical school. You can do all the prep you want, you can do all the readings you want, but once you get in here, once you hop onto the roller coaster, it's really like drinking water out of a fire hydrant. So it's really just prepping your habits and prepping your schedule and your time management skills. And I think that's all you really need to do to prepare. Just enjoy the ride, and you'll be here in no time. Have I started studying for STEP? No, I have not. My plan is so STEP is pass fail for us now. And I was just talking to a 4th year medical student today, and he was giving me some advice about, how I should approach it. And honestly, you definitely want to do your very, very best on an exam. You want to make sure you pass. You want to go above and beyond, not just to do well on the test, but you also want to know that you have a solid foundation, and you want to have a solid foundation in general about of the material. So I think that with STEP, my plan was to kind of start a little bit in this upcoming summer and then progress into the second year, the fall semester of the second year. And then we'll have like a dedicated study time in the spring right before our STEP exam. So I think we have like a 6-week or 4 to 6 week dedicated study time. And that's when things are going to really ramp up. But I think I'm going to start doing a little bit here and there over the summer just to kind of review and recap the stuff that we did this year during my first year. But I think with STEP, it's definitely a huge relief that you don't have to score like at a bazillionth percentile to get into surgical specialties or get into whatever specialty you want. It's nice that it's pass fail, but that means I have to now dial in on my my regular grades so that I could have good grades and be in a certain class rank so I can still stand out as a student. That's just my perspective. What's up, Joel? Thank you for coming through. Do I have to take anatomy and physiology as a pre-med? I guess it depends on the school's requirement. They don't have me taking A&P in my biology. Yeah. So I would definitely actually recommend anyone, like it's not a requirement, but if you have the opportunity to take it, take an A&P course. Me taking an anatomy and physiology course, for those of you that don't know, I was exercise science major before I switched to a biology major. And as an exercise science major, you had to take, the anatomy physiology. So I took 2 anatomy and physiology courses, and I'd have to say that they really, really helped me kind of get an understanding of the fundamentals of anatomy that have helped me a lot in learning in medical school. So I think if anybody asks like what classes give you the best advantage, what classes should you take, I'd say 100% take an anatomy and physiology class, because it just gives you that leg up, when you're coming here. And a lot of medical schools do not require you to have an anatomy course or anatomy and physiology course. And so when you get here, no one knows anything. You don't know what like little things and little articulations on the bones are, and you pretty much just have to learn all that on your own. And things are fast, and it's a fast-paced situation, it's a fast-paced environment. And when you have that foundation already, it just makes it a lot easier. So I would definitely recommend taking an A&P if you can. Maybe wait until the last couple semesters or whatever. Don't throw off your entire schedule just to take it, but I'd highly recommend it if you have the opportunity to. How early do you think a medical school student How early do you think a medical student should get involved in research, especially if they want to get into a competitive specialty? Yeah, I think a medical student should start getting into research like before medical school if they want to get into a competitive specialty. Not saying that you can't get into one, but the only reason I say that is because I think that what I found in my personal experience, and this is just my personal experience, is having a certain foundation in research and understanding of clinical research has made it a lot easier for me to take on a certain workload of projects, be able to trust in myself to deliver quality results to the PIs that entrust in me. So I really found that doing research prior to getting to medical school and having a strong research foundation has definitely helped me kind of get things going and get the ball rolling. When I talk to PIs or when I talk to physicians that are, want help with research, I have a reputation now. I have things on my CV and my resume that I can show them to show that I've can produce research. I have papers or examples of things and projects that I've done that I can talk about that gives them an idea that, okay, this person is going to put in a certain amount of work. This person can turn around projects quickly, and I think it's just a trust thing. But I think as far as balancing it all, it's really, I found that I started to get into research really in medical school once I felt comfortable, and my comfort level is different than everybody else's because I had research experience in clinical research, and I knew that I wanted to get involved with clinical research. So it was different. So I got involved in research after my first block. So during the beginning of block 2, I started to kind of dabble more into research and kind of introduce it into my schedule. Now I have a bunch of research projects that I've been working on, and I'm kind of going to take that now into my 4th block here. But I think whenever you're ready and whenever you get accustomed and you find that you've been able to adapt so far to the schoolwork, then you can get involved with research. But it's never too early. I think with competitive specialties, you just have to, it's all about producing and volume of research, but also at the same time, you want to be on projects that, give you quality. So whenever you're ready, I think it's kind of a cheap answer, but whenever you're ready. Christian, welcome to the stream. My question is, I'm missing one prereq, 2nd level organic. I'm currently getting my master's in pharm. Do you think the missing class would be a problem even with a master's? Yeah, the question with like missing prereqs and different things, I know prereqs kind of are different based on each school. And, I remember when I was an undergrad and I didn't have genetics, and it was like a highly recommended course for a lot of schools. And somebody told me that I wouldn't get into medical school because I didn't have a genetics course. And I got into a bunch. So I don't really know how specific schools are with that. I think that if you're really, really concerned, I'm not the guy to ask. I would probably ask, somebody on that admissions committee, or, just call up a school that you're interested in, or a bunch of schools that you're interested in, and ask them about missing that prereq, or if your master's will cover it. If your master's is in pharmacology and you're taking, these upper level organic chemistries and stuff like that you didn't take as an undergrad, it may be one of those situations when you're filling out your MCAT application and you're putting in your your grades and your requirements. Some course that you might have taken in your master's might count for that organic chemistry that you might have missed. So be sure to check with them and double check and get the confirmation, because it could be hit or miss. They might not review your application. It might not be considered complete, and they'll never review it unless you have all their requirements. So yeah, that's what I would do. Did you know Sonic, the fast food place, printed out money and gave it to the workers? The business inflated. For more information, Google Sonic inflation. I did not know that. Wow. That just goes to show money is fake. What's up, Savvy? No problem, Wally. No problem, Devin. What's up, Josh? How much time do you devote to study and prepare for med school each day? Yeah, so med school is really a full-time job. I don't do any work. I don't work. I just study all day and absorb loans. But right now, as a medical student, I pretty much study anywhere between 8 to 10 hours a day. If I'm studying for an exam, it might be anywhere from like 10 to 12, 12 to 13. But it really depends on the day. On Mondays, it's a little bit lighter for me because it's just starting the week, so I don't have much stuff that's accumulating over time. But once you get down to Thursday, then it's like a lot more stuff. Then you have to prepare for the quiz that we have on Fridays. So it changes from day to day. But you're pretty much devoting the entire day to studying, if that's your question. And it's something that you put in your breaks. You have time where you have time off. You have time where you eat. You have time where you take for yourself. So it's a marathon of a day, and you just have to kind of get through every single day of every single week. And then you could take a day off, or, sometimes I like to take a Friday evening off, or, most of Saturday off to give myself time to rest and recoup. But a lot of schools are pass fail now, so you don't have to really, go too crazy. All you have to do is pass the test. And if that's your ultimate goal, then, you could put a lot more time to yourself, and you might study less. Or if you have better studying strategies, you might, be more efficient and study less. It's a good question, though. Since STEP is pass fail now, what do you think are the determining factors for what residency programs a student can get into? Is it research, recommendations, school prestige? Yeah, I really hope it's not school prestige. With school prestige, however, I think that, you have many other factors, which is like connections and networking. So a school's prestige might help with that. It might be different when you have a letter of recommendation with a letterhead with Harvard on it versus a letterhead of, any other school other than Harvard. Let's be honest. But yeah, I think school prestige plays into it a little bit as far as networking, but I really hope that school prestige isn't a top criteria. I think the next thing is going to be your class rank, and then as well as your step 2 score. So I think step 2 as well is going to factor into it, how well you do on your clinical rotations, and that is going to affect your class rank as well, whether or not you have honor societies, so AOA, honor society, different things like that, how much research you produce, as you mentioned, so research experience. But I don't think it's like, getting on as many projects as possible, although it does look nice to have as many projects as possible and publish a bunch and do a lot of posters and do a lot of presentations. That's cool. But being on projects where you have a definite role, a strong role, a first authorship, different things like that, I think the quality over the quantity is most important. And I think as well as recommendations too. And recommendations plays a key role as far as your who you're doing research with, your research PIs, if they could give you good letters of recommendation for residency, or if you're doing great on you have excellent reviews and excellent grades and feedback on your clinical rotations. I think that will definitely help out as well. So there's a lot of factors. I think that the sad thing with STEP is a lot of the times that was used for DO students and international students to kind of have an even playing field as far as how they're perceived as a student applying to these competitive residencies. And unfortunately, now it's going to be more about maybe a little bit more about prestige and stuff like that, which is really unfortunate, because you can't control a lot of the times where you go to medical school. You kind of just go where you go and where you get accepted. So hopefully it's more about the work ethic and versus, your prestige and what school you go to. But it's something I think about all the time. That's a good point. What's up, DC? So what made you want to be a neurosurgeon? So I don't want to be a neurosurgeon. That's something that I thought about before, but basically what made me like want to go into like a certain specialty or like have a certain interest. I think that's a great question. Why do I have an interest in orthopedics right now over cardiothoracic or neurosurgery? I think it's just strictly my experience. So right now I've experienced a lot of things that have been in orthopedics. I've done orthopedic hand research. I've done orthopedic shadowing. My initial interest in medicine was through sports medicine and being an athlete in college and being an athlete in high school and enjoying, that aspect of sports science and sports medicine as a high school student. So my interest in medicine was really derived from athletics and sports and movement and orthopedics and bones and muscles. And so that's why I'm drawn towards that. But you never know. I could get into the operating room during a cardiothoracic surgery and find it the craziest thing in the world or the best thing in the world. And I could get into a neurosurgeon and be like, oh, this is actually what I really want. So I think it's really just my experience thus far. And I don't have a closed mind to anything else. But I think that, I've enjoyed a lot of the different things that orthopedics has to offer. And I think it's just really fascinating and really interesting. So that's what I've kind of just leaned into. And I think that there's nothing wrong with, leaning into a passion if you might have one. What's up, Tom? Welcome to the stream. I'm thinking about starting my journey to become a doctor, but I'm still in high school. What should I look for in deciding on what university I should attend? Yeah, that's a really good question. I was actually talking about this over the holiday break with my parents because I have a cousin of mine. She wants to go into medicine and she's deciding on colleges right now. And as a high school student, there are so many different things that I didn't even think about when I was initially deciding on going to school that I wish I was thinking about as a 17-year-old deciding on what schools to attend. Little things, you can start with little things like, does it have good study space? Does it have, do they care about the students? Little things like that. Is there a library nice? Do they have, free printing? Do they have this? Do they have that? Little things like that can help you as an academic, having enough study space to do your studying on campus or having a quiet study space versus a loud study space. So those are the little things that you can pay attention to, but there's also stuff like, what qualities does your school provide? Are you able to do they have a hospital attached to your school? So as a Stony Brook University student, they had Stony Brook University Hospital. So there was a lot of medically related volunteering. So if I wanted to dabble in that, I could and easily do it. If I want to reach out to a physician for shadowing, I have the Stony Brook University email and they have a Stony Brook email, so I could contact them pretty easily. And there's kind of like that mutual understanding, getting involved with research. What does your school have? If you want to go to medical school, a lot of the times they require research. So does the school have a good research department? Does it have a strong science department so that you have your pickings at what research team and what research lab you might want to go into if you have a certain specific interest? I think all those things are very, very important. I think the connections and the networking of your school, a lot of times if you go to a school that has a hospital attached to it, it can be very, very beneficial as, long term. But also, what type of students go to that school? Is it a liberal arts school? Is it a school that's predominantly pre-med like my school was as an undergrad? Little things like that. Is the class size big? Can you handle that? Do you prefer smaller class sizes? Definitely one of the things, and I want to jump back to this point, definitely one of the things that I found beneficial going to a school that has a lot of other pre-meds is because you know that they're going to have the resources there for you. So if a lot of their students are pre-med, if they have a large pre-med population, you'll know that a lot of their resources will be there for you because they want to make sure that their students get into medical school because they want to have that reputation. So that's something that I found very, very beneficial. Also, just knowing that you're not alone on the journey. So just being in a place where you have other pre-meds that are kind of, struggling with you, so to speak, and kind of competing with you, so to speak. So kind of where you stand as far as competitiveness, but also you have a group of people that you can kind of relate to. being as an undergrad, being part of the pre-med society at my school and getting involved with that, and just knowing that I had people in my circle that we all were going after the same goal. Some stuff like that I feel goes very unnoticed and is kind of like low key. But I think that if you can find a school that fits all those different things, it could help you propel you as a pre-med student for sure. Great question. What are some of the unexpected highlights of your first semester? What's up, Ramon? Welcome to the stream, my man. Yeah, so some of my unexpected highlights of my first semester. I think some of the unexpected highlights were just like how much I've learned from different students around me. So, when you're, and this kind of goes off the last question, it's pretty funny. When you're a pre-med student, it's very, very competitive. If you go to any website, any forum, Student Doctor Network, if you go to Reddit, there's always this bickering and there's always this nasty personalities that are on those websites. And even as a pre-med student, you feel the competition. You feel like you always have to level up to somebody or always have to compete with somebody. And it's kind of a toxic environment. But when you get to medical school, if you're in the right medical school, they very much encourage collaboration and working with your classmates. So if you don't take down that wall of insecurity, if you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable and be wrong and ask questions and get involved with your classmates, it could be a hard time. I can imagine, because it's one of those things where you will always feel insecure because there's always somebody that knows more than you. There's always somebody that knows a little bit more about a specific thing or might have had more experience in one element. So it's really about kind of learning yourself and being like, okay, this is what I know, this is what I don't know. But the opportunity to just like let your guard down and be like, okay, here's what I don't know. I'm going to learn from you. I'm going to teach you when you need something from me, and so on. So I think that one of the unexpected highlights was just the amount of collaboration and the amount of, kind of just reciprocation that medical school has. And I think that it's been really, really great. And it's kind of funny when you're a pre-med student. A lot of pre-med students are like this. They're like very type A personalities where you're in the group and like you're the one doing all the work and you're the one that's like carrying the team, and you have to constantly like message people to like do their part. And then once you're in medical school, kind of like everybody is like that. There's a spectrum of everything. There's hardcore, and then there's moderate. But I think that for the most part, everybody wants to do their part, and everybody wants to hold themselves accountable and do their part to help the team. So I think that that's one of the best things from medical school. You kind of have like all these tryhards put together that kind of want to work for the ultimate goal, which is nice. How should you try to make money in medical school? Is there time to work? I'm going to answer that question really fast. There's no time to work. They don't recommend you work. They kind of shun it and kind of put it down. YouTube is a way that I hopefully can make some type of passive income through just monetization on YouTube, a couple dollars here and there. But that's really my goal of like making money on YouTube, maybe some tutoring in the future or some TAing in the future. But my goal right now is to just hit the books and to focus up. What's up, Nicole? Since many applicants cannot visit campuses right now for interviews due to COVID, what other factors should people consider when trying to find the right fit for a medical school? Yeah, this is one of the toughest things because when you can't visit the school, everything kind of feels and looks the same. I remember when I was looking at schools and looking at every single website, things just blur together. Everybody has the best patient care. Everybody has the best students. Everybody has the, best match list. Everybody has this. Everybody's thing is the best when you ask them. But it's not until you go to the school and actually, experience it for yourself that you can make a sound judgment for yourself. And I think some of the factors that you should consider are just kind of like what other students say. See if you could get a hold of a student at that school. If you interview at that school, make sure you ask great questions and get a chance to talk to the students. Take down their email, ask them follow-up questions, because this could be the determining factor of whether or not you attend the school or not, whether or not these students give positive words, if they can answer the tough questions, if they can show you that the school has the resources and the support for their students. So all these things definitely matter. I think that with COVID restrictions and not being able to visit the school, you could always drive to the school on your own time and check out the campus. I know a couple of students that did that this year. but being able to experience and be really, really engaged in it, it's really hard unless you have the interview. But I think one of the biggest things you could do is ask the students and ask the faculty tough questions once you do your interviews, and just, surfing the web. But that's a great question. It's a tough one to answer during this time, but great question nonetheless. No problem, Wally. Janelle, thank you for joining the stream and for your question. How do medical students get involved in research? Do you reach out to PIs? Does your school send out opportunities? And so I'm going to answer the first one first. Maybe this is connected. So, and how does medical school extracurricular activities look like during COVID? Are you involved in anything besides research right now? Yeah. So to answer your first question, so getting involved with research, medical students, you kind of have like a free reign to do what you want. It depends on who you are, your experience, what you're looking to get into. For me, I knew when I was coming here that I enjoyed clinical research because I did a clinical gap year. I did a gap year doing clinical research, so I knew I wanted to get involved with clinical research. So with that, you kind of just reach out to physicians, you reach out to PIs, and you ask them, do you have any projects? You maybe will look up some of their work beforehand and suggest, here's some things that I saw that you worked on. I'm really interested in it. Have you tried exploring this? Or I would love to help you explore this aspect of different things. And those are things you could do if you have research experience. But other than that, at my school, we have this thing called scholarly inquiries, where it's essentially their mandated research, kind of like a longitudinal track in our curriculum. So you can do research in a bunch of different things. You could do research in design. You could do research in public health. You could do research in clinical. You could do research in bench stuff. You could do research in health technologies. So there's so many different things that you can do in different tracks you can choose at my school to do research. And that's kind of like where they give you that assistance of, okay, if you choose those tracks, here's kind of like a PI that you could work with, or here's some people that you might want to contact. And then you'll get started from there. Even with getting involved with orthopedic research here, there's a person that we can contact that pretty much puts us on a list to get us set up with research projects. So as long as you put in the effort to contact people, I think that it will be reciprocated as a medical student, similar to as a getting research as a pre-med. You have that at X name, school name attached to you. So if you're attached to a research facility, if you're attached to a hospital, just emailing them with that, at stonybrook.edu or at whatever, it allows you to kind of get in your foot in the door and say, okay, I'm part of this, network of academics, and what do you think about me joining your stuff or me, joining your research? But when they ask you that and you meet with them, you have to definitely know your stuff and make sure you do your due diligence beforehand to understand, okay, what their projects are looking like, what you're looking to contribute, how much you can contribute, and all those different things. So I think it's all about just like putting your foot forward and making the effort. I think that's the best way I've found that you get research by, obviously, shooting your shot first and hoping for the best. And extracurriculars, as far as with COVID, they're all virtual. There are some extracurricular things that you can do and different volunteer events that you can do that might be like COVID testing or helping with like COVID testing or different things like that, where you do like in person. But for the most part, everything has been virtual. So all the clubs and extracurricular activities that I've done so far have all just been, virtual meetings. I've been a part of a couple of different surgery clubs, and we just do virtual meetings, hear from surgeons, hear them talk, and they talk to us, and we could ask them questions, interact with them. So that's pretty much been a lot of the extracurriculars so far. And the volunteering, I've done a couple of different volunteer events, both been virtual, and that's just kind of how it is right now. And it's unfortunate because a lot of the volunteer stuff, you kind of have to be in somebody's face, and you kind of have to you want to interact with people, you want to kind of have that personal connection when you're volunteering, and you can't really get that same fulfillment when you're doing it virtually. So it's tough, but I think that it'll get better now that the vaccine's coming around and things are probably going to progress to some normalcy soon. No problem, DC. No problem, Tom. How do I study? Do you use UFAP? I've never actually heard that before. but that is great. UWorld, first aid, Anki, Pathoma. How many passes do you usually complete before you move on to new material? Do you preview your lectures before watching them? Yeah, so basically my study strategies, they have been changing every single block from the beginning of medical school. The first block, I did all my own Anki cards. I didn't really use much external resources like first aid or Pathoma. I didn't use any UWorld. And I would just make my own cards based off the lectures, and I was just learning those cards as many times as possible throughout the week until, I learned them and then they come up again. I try to get at least a couple passes, 2 to 3 passes in a week of the material, depending on if I'm making my own Anki cards, if I'm studying the lecture material. I try to get at least 2 to 3 passes, but it's never consistent for me. And this has been something that I've been kind of struggling with. I've been just trying to adapt to what works best for me. And I've tried so many different strategies. I've asked different people for advice from my school, from other medical students, kind of seeing what everybody else is doing and seeing, okay, how can I add that to my toolbox to make it work for me? I tried previewing lectures last block. It may have helped. I can't say for certain, but I just know that I previewed them. And then after that, I never went back to those notes and reviewed them multiple times. So if you look at it from that perspective, it was a waste of time. So I think this next block, I'm going to just be studying based off of, watching the lectures, maybe returning to doing my own Anki cards, using some of the pre-made stuff to kind of save me some time, and I definitely found the external resources to be helpful as far as learning material that may not have been taught the best at my school, or I needed more clarification with. So I think that, that's definitely helpful with the external resources. But as far as kind of leaning on them, I think that because I'm not studying for STEP right now, and what really matters are the grades that are coming from my lectures, it's all about buckling down and getting as many passes as possible with that lecture material. So I think that that's going to be my plan, and just studying to understand the lecture material as much as possible, doing as many practice questions as possible, as many Anki reviews as possible, and as many passes as I can. It's all about repetition, because there's so much information, and to learn it all, it's all about repetition. That's a great question though. Kadir, what's up? What's up, man? What's your take on low clinical volunteer hours people applying in 2021? So I guess to clarify your question, what do you have to have a lot of clinical volunteer hours to apply to medical school or get accepted into medical school? And I assume you're saying this because a lot of stuff with COVID, you're not able to get a lot of clinical hours because of that. And I think that it's not something that I would really, really worry about. For me, when I was in undergrad, I didn't really have that many clinical hours. If you're thinking about clinical hours being volunteering at a hospital, or having a clinical related job like an EMT or a medical assistant, I think that for me, it was all about doing the things that I enjoyed. So one of the things that ended up being clinical for me was volunteering at this program called Fit Kids for Life, where we worked with obese or at-risk obese children, who were at risk for cardiovascular diseases or might have had diabetes and different things like that. And, that was a clinical experience for me, because we worked with them to get their nutrition right, teach them exercises, and we exercised with them twice a week. So it ended up being something where I'm learning how to kind of, use diet and exercise to help treat a pediatric population. So that was clinical for me. But it wasn't like one of those, volunteering at a hospital or working at a specific job or being a scribe or anything like that. So it was just something that I enjoyed doing, and it ended up being, clinical for me. I worked as a personal trainer as well, and it was a situation where some of my clients ended up being, people that might have been post-operative or might have been pre-diabetic or diabetic, and they're exercising for their health. They might have, had cardiovascular issues, exercising for the health, osteoarthritis, exercising again for their health. So that ended up being a lot of, clinical exposure, because I'm now, again, using exercise, diet to help somebody rehabilitate, or somebody prevent ailment or prevent illness or strengthen themselves. So that's kind of what my clinical experiences were as a pre-med student. And I think that if you could find anything to show that not only about, volunteering for the sake of volunteering, but doing something that you enjoy so you can get a lot out of it, and that you can show that, passion on your application, I think that that's the number one, probably the most the best advice I could give, and the number one, factor as far as if this, if these hours are even relevant, But that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. DC, what's the most interesting thing that you've learned that maybe made you look at something different? Yeah, I think some of the most interesting things that I've learned about so far have just been like the health disparities that go on in medicine, and just understanding the complexity of healthcare. I'm a first year medical student. I know nothing compared to physicians out there, but just the stuff that I've been exposed to, just health insurance, the little bit I've been exposed to it, the homelessness population, the health disparities in Philadelphia. All these different things, different things like even preconceived notions or bias when you're as a physician or as a student, dealing with people and their perceptions and negative stereotypes with people that have certain ailments or diseases. Learning about all those different things, I think it's made me a better person. I think it's made me more well-rounded. I think it's made me more empathetic and understanding. And I think that with learning those things, I would have never expected. You understand that those things are out there. You understand that they're prevalent, but it's not until you speak with somebody or you have somebody with HIV come in and talk to you, somebody with a chronic illness, come in and talk to you, and you talk to them and you ask them about their healthcare. It's not until you have a face-to-face interaction with somebody that it really hits home for you. And I think that that's something that I've been fortunate enough to be exposed to thus far. And I think that's definitely changed how I look at medicine in general, just understanding that it's way bigger than me. It's way bigger than the person next to me, all the doctors next to me. It's a world problem, and it's a bigger problem, bigger picture. So I think that that's been my most it's definitely been my most like fulfilling and most interesting thing that's changed how I look at the world. That's a great question. How do you think it would have been if you did all this pre-COVID versus now? Or like, do you think it would have been easier or more difficult? I think it would have been the same as far as difficulty. COVID versus pre-COVID. The only thing that's different, I think, is we probably would have been able to see our classmates more and get more interaction with the classmates. And I think that that's something that a lot of my classmates and myself as well, we wish that we had more of. We wish we had the opportunity to learn more from people around us, the people that are closest to us. Medical school, they say you make some of your best and closest friends in medical school. So the opportunities are not there for us right now, but it will get better, and things will get better with the vaccine, and over the next 4 years. We have a lot of time to learn from one another and learn about one another. I'm not really worried about not having that opportunity going forward, but it's something that you definitely hear about when you come into medical school. Oh wow, like I met some of my best friends here, I met some of these great people here, and you only know like 10 people out of your class, and you're like, I wish I could do that. But I think that it will get better with time, and I think that the only difference as far as difficulty and the different things is just like the interaction with classmates. I think my school has been doing a really good job of keeping everything afloat and making sure that we get taken care of here. Little things like in-person stuff and having different clinical skills stuff in person, or having different, having cadaver dissections in person, those things you definitely miss. But I'm not really worried that I'm going to be a worse student or a worse doctor because of those, small things. That's a good question. What's up, Bernard? Welcome to the stream. Thank you for asking your question. I want to thank you for sharing your story. What are some things I should consider when making a decision on schools, what schools to go to after multiple acceptances? Yeah, so if you want a video on this topic, I made a video when I announced my medical school that I'm going to. When I did my medical school reveal, I also kind of combined in that video a video on choosing your medical school and the things that you should consider. But just to recap it really quick right now, I think that there are a few factors. The first one I considered was location. What school did I want to go to, as far as where did I want to live for the next 4 years of my life? Where did I see myself being? I knew I wanted to be in a city environment, so I chose, Philadelphia. And I had a couple of different cities I could have chosen between Boston for me or Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a lot closer to my home. in New York, so I'm able to travel there for holidays and stuff a lot easier without having to worry about maybe taking a plane or driving 5 hours. Also, it's not snowing here all the time like it is in Boston. It's not as cold in the winter time, so that was a big factor. Also, the cost of living in Philadelphia is cheaper than the cost of living in Boston. So that was kind of another deciding factor of whether or not I want to choose a specific city. After that, I considered things like the resources the school provided, what things were of interest to me. So I'm interested in orthopedics. My school, we have collaboration with Rothman Orthopedic Institute, which is, a top orthopedic group in the country and in the world, and they produce a lot of research, and they're have great physicians, and we had the ability to be next door to them and have that opportunity to get involved with them. Was definitely something that pulled me in here, being interested in orthopedics and being interested in surgery in general. We have a pretty strong surgery department here in at Jefferson. And then other things like what the students say about the school. How was your interview? What was your gut feeling when you visited that school? Did it give you like a feeling of, this is where I could see myself? Or did you have any hesitations or any doubts in any ways about the school? And then I think the last thing you can consider is just like financials. Is the school giving you a scholarship? What's the tuition like? All factors, if all factors are the same, then I would say consider finances. But if one school gives you that gut feeling and you're like, I definitely want to be here, I would say the differences in finances are not significant enough to go to a school that you're not going to be as happy at. So if you're deciding what school to go to, use that finances as a bargaining chip. If one school offers you a scholarship but you want to go to the other school, bring that up. Say, I'd really love to come here, but financially it's something I can't do. See if they budge. See if they offer you some more financial aid, a scholarship. I've heard so many stories of people kind of like appreciating their worth and kind of bargaining that scholarship money. So those are definitely some factors that I considered, and it's a big picture decision. But there's all these different little things that go into your decision. I knew when I had my interview here, I'm like, if I get accepted here, I'd love to come here. And that's one of those things that you got to go with your gut. And I think that the gut decision is one that you can't ignore. Great question though. What advice? No problem, Kadir. What advice would you give to a medical school applicant that has not heard back from the schools yet, or is on the wait list? Yeah. So with just hearing back from medical schools in general, it's one of the worst experiences. You're constantly checking your email. You get an email and you think it's a medical school, but it's really just like your bank or like this spam message or whatever. And it's one of those things that it can cause you to be paranoid. You start checking, SDN, you start checking Reddit, you start checking all these other people that are getting acceptances, and you're just sitting there like, am I doing something wrong? Should I submit a letter of intent? Should I submit more updates? What should I do? Am I not doing enough? If you got an interview and you got accepted, like if you got an interview and you got a wait list, or if you're waiting to hear back from the school, you did your best. You've given everything that you've given up to this point. If you haven't gotten an interview yet, you've given everything you've done up to this point. Unless you have more updates to give a school, or you got a new job, or you got in some research publications, you've did everything that you can possibly do to get that interview. If you got an interview and you did the interview and you got a wait list, or you're still waiting to hear back from the school, you've done everything you can do. Unless it's, again, the same updates, you've done everything you can do. So just relax, enjoy your time off, enjoy the fact that you don't have to worry about being a medical student just yet, and just appreciate the time. I think that you can only do so much, and stay away from student doctor networks, stay away from Reddit. If your friends are pre-med and they're applying to medical schools too, talk to them, but don't get paranoid. You've done everything that you can do. I remember I interviewed for a school in November. I didn't hear back from them until February. So there's so many different factors that go into it, and we truly don't know all the things that go on behind the scenes. So you may think that somebody may interviewed after you and got an acceptance first, and that they're a better applicant than you, but it really doesn't work like that. So just take your time, be patient, and trust the process. Great. Great question. When should I take the MCAT, and how do you recommend studying? Yeah, so you should take the MCAT. This is the most cliche answer, but when you're ready. Take the MCAT whenever you're ready. Don't try to rush it. Take 3 months. I personally say 3 months. Take that time to dedicate to the MCAT. Take it when you're ready and hit it at the park. The MCAT's one of those things that you don't want to take lightly. It's a all access key to the potential of getting a medical school acceptance. It definitely helped me get in the door for probably all my schools, and just having an increased score and doing well and being able to say without a shadow of a doubt, I did my very, very best and I gave it my all. That's one of the things that you can't take back. So do your very best and study for the MCAT. And take it when you're ready. So if that means that you have to wait until after you graduate to take it and take a year off, then do that. If you feel ready in your junior year and you want to study over the summer, take it then. But as far as my recommendations for studying, take a look at my MCAT playlist. I have so many videos on there about how to study for specific sections, like how to study for the science section, how I increased my MCAT score myself, and some mistakes that I made that you can avoid. I also talked about just how to study for the cars section. I talked about how I made my study schedule, how I scheduled everything out. So take a look at that playlist on my channel. It should be like MCAT study advice or MCAT advice. And there's so many different videos on there that I think can be very, very helpful. Hello, Nevada. Thank you for coming to the stream and thank you for your question. Did you have any traditional one-on-one interviews? What did you feel was best way to prepare for them? Yeah, so I did have, most of my interviews were one-on-one. I did 10 interviews overall, and I did 8 one-on-one interviews. All my traditional interviews were one-on-one. None of them were like 2-on-1 or group interviews, luckily. So I had that just one-on-one interview experience, and they were great. I think that I enjoyed them just as much as I think that the MMIs went. They were nice because you have a long period of time to just sit down with a student or a faculty member and kind of learn about them while they also learn about you. I think a lot of the times it was kind of low stress because you made it to that point. You're a quality applicant if they're interviewing you. A lot of schools, vet their list of applicants beforehand. And once you get to that point where you're interviewing, everybody there is competitive and everybody there could potentially fit in and go to that school. So they just really want to confirm that. The best way I felt to prepare for them, and I had made some videos on this as well, so check out my channel for medical school like interview advice. It should be a playlist as well on my channel. And the best way I felt to prepare for my one-on-one interviews was just to first know my application. So know in and out, like your experiences. Some people say study your application. I mean, you lived it, you were there, but you definitely want to study, how you wrote it, how you described it to people on your application. Study your personal statement, understand what your theme and what your story is, and stick to that. A lot of the times we think that schools are letting us in or they're letting us interview. No, you earned that. You worked so many years and you put in so many hours and so much blood, sweat, and tears into this experience, into this journey, and you earned it. So when you get there, don't be somebody that's different than the person that you were when you were earning this interview. So one of the biggest things is know your theme, know your story, and stick to that. So if you're somebody that, and I use this as an example all the time, if they ask you on a one-on-one interview, how do you handle conflict in a team? If you're not a person that's like a super, super duper leader and an outspoken person, don't say that you're going to be like the outspoken person that goes above and beyond and like tells everybody what to do and delegates and does all this stuff. Like, be the person that you are. So if you're a soft-spoken person and you lead by example, then say that. Don't give them the answer that you think that they want to hear. Tell them, who you are and express to them who you are. Medical schools are looking for diversity. They're looking for different people. They don't want everybody to be the same. So trust in your story, trust in yourself. Go through a bunch of different examples, go through a bunch of different questions and scenarios, and master that and master feeling comfortable in your own skin. I think that's the biggest thing for the interview. You can never answer all the questions. You can never know everything. You can never do all the scenarios. There's a like 500 interview questions that you could potentially be asked. You can never do all of them. You can never master all of them, but you want to be in a situation where you're comfortable in your own skin and you understand your thought process. You understand your ethos, your pathos, everything about yourself, what you find good, what you find bad, where you stand on certain topics and certain political issues, and understanding that you could see things from both sides. And I think that then you'll be golden. I think with medical school interviewing, a lot of people think that you have to get past this gateway and these people are your gatekeepers. Like, you just be yourself and know that you earned this. No one could take anything away from you, and you're going to get to the point where you want to be no matter what. So that's a great question, and just take pride in yourself. You're going to do great. I'm sure of it. Tom, you should drop Terence Thomas YouTube merch. Dude, I'd have to hit up Juvier or King Zeph for the merch game. I don't know if I'm ready for merch just yet. I don't know if anybody would actually buy that. Maybe DC would buy that. That's the only person I could see buying my merch. I can't even focus. I have to first focus on getting good grades before I start dropping merch. No problem. Happy to help. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. You'd buy my merch? I don't even know what my merch would be. What would it be? Just a YouTuber or a medical student? I'd have to think of some ideas if I were to come out with some merch. Wally, what do you love most about medical school? I think I love the fact that you worked so hard to get here and you're finally here and you're living the dream. I think that there's nothing that you could take away. No one could take away this accomplishment from you, no matter how successful, quote unquote, you are in medical school, how successful you are as a doctor in the future. You set out this goal for yourself, you made it, and you accomplished it, and now you're living it. On top of that, you get to meet a lot of really cool people. I met, so many great people so far, and I barely know, a small piece of my class. So you meet so many great people, you learn from so many great people, you're constantly learning, you're in a situation where you can never know too much, and you're constantly getting all this stuff kind of just thrown at you. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that sticks, and like I mentioned before, the things that I learned that changed my perspective on the world. I think that that's something that medical school definitely offers. And for all you guys that are going to be med students soon, look forward to that, because it's one of those things that you can I feel like not many professions you don't get that same perspective. You'd buy my merch over any celebrity? I appreciate that. That's definitely heartwarming, but I don't know if I'm releasing any merch anytime soon. But thank you. I appreciate that, Aaron. You're rocking your merch with a K-band and a Durag. That would look pretty nuts, but you would look pretty well-rounded, I'd say. You'd be like a anime loving monkey app YouTuber, med school YouTuber. Awesome, guys. So if you guys don't have any last minute questions, I'm gonna sign off here. It's been a pleasure having another live stream for you guys. This has been super great, and I loved it. I love coming and chatting with you guys and learning about where you guys are on the journey. It's being able to share my story. Pretty random question. Yeah, I played sports in high school and college. I played basketball at the Division III level in college. I played basketball in college and in middle school all the way up to college. I played baseball in high school up to my freshman year. I stopped playing my sophomore year and focused on basketball. That was like my true love. I played soccer growing up as well, but baseball and basketball are my two go-to sports. Do you have time to work out? I do have time to work out. The thing with do you have time to work out? The question is really like, do you make time to work out? And that's really the struggle. I make time to work out as much as I can, and it's something I have to get better at. But it's something that I try to do my best to at least do something active a couple of times a week, as much as I can. I've been getting into running lately, so me and my girlfriend go running. We try to go, we've been trying to go at least like 4 or 5 times a week, go running. So it's just little things. You have to adjust to the times. Gyms aren't open right now, so we picked up running And once gyms open up back again, we'll probably be back in the gym. What were your dreams as a child? Was it always in the medical field? No, I had a lot of interest growing up. I write about it in my personal statement to medical school, but I had a lot of interest. At one point, I wanted to be a pilot when I was a kid, because one of my parents' friends was a pilot. I wanted to be a lawyer at some point because I loved arguing. I loved debating. I thought being a lawyer was super cool. I was always interested in business and, doing things in business. So I thought about doing, business or entrepreneurship, but it wasn't until it was probably like when I got to like high school and closer into, my later years in high school, I realized that like medicine is what I wanted to do. I like sports science, as I mentioned earlier, and I was just drawn to like science in general. And then once I realized that I can merge my love for science and athletics and the human body, then I was like, medicine is what I wanted to do. So yeah, I think, yeah, you want to be a lawyer too? Yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer, but I don't know if I ever like really dug into it too deep, to where I was like, oh, this is what I really wanted to do. I think it was always just like a superficial thought when you're like a little kid. I think everybody wants to be like a doctor, lawyer, astronaut, or like a teacher or something. When you're a kid, you don't really know all the career paths out there for you until you're exposed to like, to them in real life. So, but yeah, that's a great question. All right. Thank you guys. This has been fun. I've been talking for like an hour straight. Hope you guys aren't tired of my voice yet. 2K later, I'm about it. No problem, Devin. Let me know if you need anything. Feel free to reach out through email, anything. I got you guys. That's really why somebody asked me earlier why I created my YouTube channel. This is it. The mentorship, the ability to help somebody along the way. Yes, sir. See you later, DC. Tom, I'll see you later on 2K. Yes, sir. Anytime. All right, guys, signing off. Thank you again. Till next time. Yeah, I'll keep the merch in mind. Till next time, thank you, everybody.